They made them when you were more impressionable than you are now, in childhood, or it may have been in youth. Therefore, the judgment of the cause, by the time you heard it, was guilt by default, since there was no one to refute it. The hardest thing of all is that I do not know and cannot tell you my accusers' names, unless in the chance case of a comic poet. It is these people that have been persuaded by envy and malice, some of them having to first convince themselves. It is this class of men that are the most difficult to deal with. Since I cannot face them and cross-examine them, I am left to fight with shadows in my own defense and argue where there is no one who answers. I will ask you to assume with me, as I was saying, that my opponents are of two kinds, one recent, the other ancient. I hope you see the propriety of answering the ancient accusers first, since these accusers you have heard for a much longer time, and obviously much more often. I must now start my defense, and endeavor to clear up immediately a long-standing slanderous accusation. Of course, I hope that I succeed, since then my success would benefit both you and I, or at the least, benefit my cause. The task is not an easy one, although I completely understand the nature of it. I must leave the outcome with God. Therefore, in obedience to the law, I now make my defense. I will begin at the source of my accusations and ask the nature and basis for my charge, and then what encouraged Meletus to bring it against me. Let me summarize what the slanderers say, since they are my prosecutors. Let me sum up their words by reading their sworn statement. Socrates is an evildoer and a peculiar person who searches into things under the earth and in heaven, and he makes the worse appear the better cause, and he teaches these doctrines to others. This is the nature of the accusation. It is what you see in the comedy of Aristophanes. In his comedies, Aristophanes introduces a man he calls Socrates, who goes around saying that he walks on air and talks a great deal of nonsense concerning matters that I do not pretend to know much of. I do not say this to speak disparagingly of any student of natural philosophy. I would be very sorry if Meletus could bring such a grave charge against me. However, the simple truth is that I have nothing to do with physical speculations. Many of those present here are witnesses to the truth of this statement, and I appeal to them. Speak then, those of you who have heard me, and tell your neighbors whether any of you have ever known me to speak, in few words or in many, upon such matters. Ah, no response. Then you hear their answer. From their negative response on this part of the charge, you can judge the basis of truth for the rest of the charges. There is little foundation to the report that I am a teacher and take money. This accusation has no more truth in it than the other. Although, if a man were really able to instruct mankind, and to receive money for giving this instruction, this would, in my opinion, be an honor to him. There is Gorgias of Leontium, and Prodicus of Ceos, and Hippias of Elis, who travel to various cities and persuade the young men to leave their own citizens, who would teach them for nothing, and come to them, whom they not only pay, but are thankful that they are allowed to pay them. There is currently a Parian philosopher residing in Athens, of whom I have heard. Here is how I came to hear about him. I came across a man named Callias, the son of Hipponicus, who spent a vast amount of money on the sophists. Knowing that he had sons, I asked him, "Callias, if your two sons were foals or calves, you wouldn't find it difficult to locate someone to care for them. Most likely, you would hire a trainer of horses, or a farmer perhaps, who would improve and perfect your animals in their own proper virtue and excellence. But since your sons are human beings, who are you thinking of placing over them? Is there anyone who understands human and political virtue? You must have thought about the matter."